corruption of Gahun on Zandalar, Kultiris has more than a few problems of its own. And so this is going to serve the role of sort of a Trial of Valor type raid. The thought is that this will be available a decent bit after Zuldazar. We don't want to overload players with too much raid content. I know people right now are probably hearing this and thinking, like, not even halfway through Uldir, but don't worry, we're going to, as we did in Legion, we want to make sure that we're continuing a steady stream of content, the release of which we pace out so that you're not overwhelmed, but also not feeling like you're waiting too long for the next thing. And we will have supporting world content and a quest line. So around the time that this raid opens, there'll be other Naga invasions and Naga-themed world quests around the shores and coastlines of the new continents. And we want to make sure that everyone understands why they're going into this place, especially Horde players who may lack the context of having played through Stormsong Valley themselves. So tons of exciting new raid content coming next in Tides of Vengeance. Now, of course, aside from the big pieces of content, our first major content update also gives us a chance to really dig into various systems updates and improvements. This is a lot of the stuff that we've been discussing that was touched on in the AMA on Reddit last week. We've been doing some class tuning via hotfix. That is still very much ongoing. We have a couple more passes based on all the robust data that we've been seeing on the live servers. But a patch represents a chance for us to really dig into talent trees and rotations a bit more and look at a handful of specs that still have some significant problems based on our own perspective, based on feedback we've heard from the community, and try to address those more directly. As well as ongoing numerical balancing that we've been doing to Azerite traits that will continue. We're also going to add a bunch of new Azerite traits that will be found on gear from the Zuldazar raid and more, as well as just some general replacements for Azerite traits that have been less interesting or less effective on some specs so far. And again, the goal is to learn from what the most successful, most interesting ones have been and continue to raise the bar there. I think what we've seen in the first wave of traits is something of a floor in terms of overall complexity and overall level of engagement. We're looking to continue to add depth and expand and grow from there. That's different from how set bonuses used to work in the past, where often the first tier set bonuses were relatively simple because classes had changed, people were still figuring things out, and we weren't looking to layer on too much complexity right away. There'll be new profession recipes, Nobergon pet battle dungeon for pet battle enthusiasts out there who've been wondering when the next chapter in that dungeon saga is going to be, and varied additional improvements. Everything from map improvements to actually reputations, something that has been touched on a lot in discussion recently. We already had plans in the works to make the Champions of Azeroth reputation effectively account-wide when it comes to the upgrades to your Heart of Azeroth itself. So in Tides of Vengeance, you'll be able to just log in, and if you have an alt that's already revered with Magni, you can just go get those upgrades right away when you hit 120. And we've also been hearing a lot of feedback, especially in the last few days, about some of the things that make reputation inconvenient when you're playing alts or looking at switching characters. I think one of the big ones there is transmog, actually. There are a number of rep-restricted items on vendors and other sources around the world, where if I think the almost silly, ironic example is, if you're exalted with the High Mountain Tauren and you unlock and make a High Mountain allied race, your new High Mountain Tauren can't use that tabard because they're not yet exalted with High Mountain, and it has that requirement. So we're actually going to be making a change to pretty much remove those restrictions on faction-based transmogs across the game. Once you've earned it, everyone on your account can use it. You don't have to worry about having to re-earn that. Separately, another pain point has been for completionists who are working towards the big achievements like 60, 70, 80 exalted reputations. We're going to make progress towards that achievement truly account-wide. So if you have 70 reps on character A and 20 different reps on character B, that'll actually add up to the 90. And you don't have to worry about being unable to switch characters because of your past investment. And yeah, we'll make sure that Horde and Alliance exclusive reps don't double count. So it's not nerfing the achievement, it's more just raising accessibility as a whole. One thing I just wanted to address, actually thought of this while talking. I know there are a number of people who are wondering where Kultiran and Zandalari are. We talked about them in the past as an upcoming allied race. We're not quite yet there in the story, but they're very, very close. I think in the events following the raid, that's where this bond between our new allies and our factions will truly be forged, and where we'll be able to recruit and bring the Kultiran and the Zandalari formally into our factions. And no, if you're worrying or wondering about this, You're not going to have to rep up with some new faction. If you are, exalted with the Proudmoore Admiralty or Zandalari Empire, and you've done the war campaign, that's enough. You've played through the story, you've earned their alliance, they will come join your faction, but that's not going to happen until after the raid. So, when is this coming? The goal is, fingers crossed, this Tides of Vengeance update we want to have on the public test realm by the end of the week. So I know there'll be data mining out there, people jumping onto the servers as soon as they go up, and there's a lot more that I didn't even begin to touch on. There's a lot of tiny changes, a lot of new art assets, things that you'll be seeing soon, but we're incredibly excited to share this with you. And again, just to recap, we have a new Warfront, 2 new raids, 2 new islands, island improvements, heritage armor for non-allied races, broader systems improvements, and more. Can't wait to see you in the public test realm. Can't wait for everyone to jump on and check it out. Again, thank you for tuning in, and we have a whole lot more to discuss in the future when it comes to Battle for Azeroth as a whole, but when it comes to the story, when it comes to the content in the game, we have we're viewing the Legion patch plan as our template, and that's what we want to carry forward. We always want to make sure the world is evolving, the story is evolving, the things you have to do in the game are evolving, and that the content is well-paced. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you all later.
Knew it.
Great to meet you. Safe travels. Hi. Watch your back. See you soon.
need to get closer.